Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. Mom and I are both grateful that you can join us for another week, and we are super excited that we're welcoming back Scott Grace. Grace wrote a book full of heart, full of might, mindful masculinity, shining soul light. With wisdom and laughter, he shows us the way to drop heavy burdens and brighten our day. In episode 214, he made it quite clear letting go of the struggle brings peace ever near. Why wrestle with worry? Why battle with doubt? Just breathe in your being and let it float out. Then back in 203, he let music take flight, a healing old friend in the silence of night. With chords full of comfort and lyrics that feel, he showed that a song has the power to heal. So, welcome to Scott Grace with his whimsical soul, turning deep thoughts into rhymes is his goal. He's the Seuss of the spirit with joy in his stride, helping hearts open wide and egos subside.
Woohoo!
That was awesome.
Thanks to you and your muse and I feel like the juiciest, grateful kind of guy. It's like you're showing me there's an infinite supply, and I don't have to be the only rhyming guy.
Well, I thought you would probably appreciate that because you always do these wonderful, wonderful rhymes. So, yes, ChatGPT is my
Very
friend for these kind of things.
Thank you so much, Kim and Barb, for having me join you again. And what's your first question?
Okay, well, our first question is, what are we going to talk about today?
I would love to talk about my latest passion project, which is to touch hearts around subjects that are so very rarely heart oriented. Politics, left, right, red, blue, me versus you, red states, blue states, everybody's got a point of view. And I would like to step back and look at this from a more deep, spiritual, heart centered perspective.
I think that will be an amazing conversation because I think in the end, I really think when it comes down to it, it's not about us versus them, me versus you. It's about these are our choices and these are our thoughts and our feelings, but we should still be able to come together collectively with kindness and love and those kind of things. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you today, like I know Mom is.
Goody, goody, goody,
yes,
goody.
gotcha.
And I think just about everyone would agree that mutual respect and kindness maybe is a good thing with people that you disagree with. So, what makes these times so unusual in that people who generally have kind hearts are at each other's throats? And I would like to answer that question right away.
Okay.
So, I think the reason why these times are so stressful and are bringing out many people's lower nature is because people are scared shitless. That's what does it. Fear, the adrenaline, the the cortisol, whatever the hell the hormones are. When you are feeling fight or flight are your only two choices, that's when you start to take sides like there's only one right way to think. I'm writing a book about this, and I'd love to read to you the opening of the book, the very beginning. It's in rhyme, so I think you'll approve.
Yes.
Okay.
We would love that.
Okay. The book you are reading contains lots of rhyming. Consult Dr. Seuss for a lesson in timing. But this is no story to tuck in the kids. It's a grown-ups wake up book with wisdom to give. A book without answers, but full of good questions. Uh-oh. I just dropped my microphone. Um, a book without answers, full of good questions, ones to chew slowly for mindful digestion. Like, why do most people see just red or blue? Could there be more than one right point of view? Are opinions synonymous with what is true? Is this what our founders envisioned we do? Old Honest Abe. Mm, no. Old Honest Abe. Now, he was the man. A house divided cannot long stand. He was a Republican, President Lincoln. I'd like to see more of the thoughts he was thinking. Why are opinions becoming more rigid? Why is the Cold War becoming so frigid? I'll have a theory I'll share in this book that points to the glasses through which we all look. It's a dark pair of glasses that block out the light. They show us two colors, just black, just white. No room for discussion. You're wrong, and I'm right. My blood pressure rises, my jaw gets so tight, and I'm left with two options: just fight or take flight. And when I am choosing between those two F's, it brings out my worst traits and hides all the rest. No thinking things through. It's time to get tribal, to stick with my own and steer clear of my rivals. My rivals are totally up to no good. They simply cannot be at least understood. My glasses make sure I can see with perfection that my tribe alone has the moral direction. Now, it's easy to see those dark glasses on Putin, but in my own mirror, now that I'm disputing, I'd rather be blind to my mind's battlefront so I can cast blame on those liberals or Trump. Could it be the whole nation's now wearing these glasses, seeing the world through the fog up our asses, using social media for amplifying the reasons the other side needs demonizing? Our differences seemingly so polarizing, we can spend half the day back and forth analyzing. And through algorithms, we see only our tribe and think the whole internet is on our side. The trespassing's always those other dumb asses, rarely the fault of our own faulty glasses. May this book help us take off those glasses and see what's beyond our opinions, our humanity.
Perfect. I like that. And it's so
Very nice. It is true.
it really is because I know, well, I don't really talk politics too much because usually it ends up in a lot of confrontation. I'm sure
Yes.
you've found. So I don't really watch the news. I don't I don't do that because I don't want to be confrontational with people. So for
Yeah,
me, I just listen to what they have to say. And, some points I maybe agree with, some points I don't. But when you take a look from a sort of a, I'm not really one side or the other. I'm just kind of neutral. It gives a different look on things, and you can listen a little bit better when people are talking.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, neutrality is quite a superpower these days, isn't it?
Sure is.
Like to not feel forced to have an opinion, but to just be curious and take in all the data and all the energy and just be curious. That's incredible. I feel blessed to have so much neutrality these days. I was raised with a liberal bias, and I always thought that people in the center, whatever that means, were wimpy, were, politicians would go to the center, just try to get enough votes. And now I find myself like, I guess, more in the center than I ever dreamed I would ever be, because I just look for wisdom and and I see some of it on both sides. I see valid points of view everywhere I look. So, one thing I learned from studying improv, one of the improv mottos is yes and. So if somebody says, "Look at the moon, it's green, it's green," you say, "Yes," and I see a hole that, like, so you always validate and then you add. And so it would be my dream to have a country in the world run by people who have deep wisdom, maybe a council of seven, four women, three men. I have it all figured out up here. But the thing that these people would have is wisdom and selfless service. And until we get to the point where enough of us value that and can smell ego and sort of say no, thank you, we live in an insane world. Hello, I'm insane. How are you?
That's true. That is true.
It is very true. And I think, that would be lovely if we came from that place because I think we would get more accomplished also, right? If
Yes,
had more people that were, I don't want to say buying in, I don't know is the right word, but kind of, right? We're all living in this harmonious place. Yes,
supposedly.
we do need a leader. We do need someone to guide us, but it feels like if we could be guided from wisdom and so, those kind of things, it would be a much better place.
Indeed. And I think that the purpose of government right now is to fail miserably so that enough people do what I'm going to say that most of people listening to this podcast are already doing, which is to tune into yourself. You are the cause of your suffering. You are the cause of your joy. You are on a journey. And the more people who learn to be the president of their own United States, the more eventually there's going to be a collective shift to value wisdom and love and true authentic power. And then we'll elect people who reflect that. But right now, it's personal development, personal awakening, one heart and mind at a time.
Yes.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is, really looking ourselves in the mirror too, right? What do we want to stand for as far as either political or just being a good human being. And I think that that's a lot of it is what do we stand for?
Yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, right now, a lot of people are focusing on what they won't stand for,
Mhm.
which is a start. It's the beginning of a journey to say, I'm not going to stand for this deportation or this or that. Great. But let's shift now to Martin Luther King or Gandhi. I will stand for, this is what I stand for.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King didn't say, I have a complaint.
No,
And
he did not.
you know me. I am a rhymer, and uh, part of what I do is called the spiritual Dr. Seuss. So this is what the spiritual Dr. Seuss says about complaining. Ask and it's given, it says in the Bible. But if you're like me, then you're really quite liable to ask in a way that is more like complaining. Not like, let there be sun, more like, make it stop raining. And when you are focused on, and when you are focused on what, I forget, when you're focused on what you're focused on, the universe has no choice but to respond by delivering more of what you're focused on. It could drive you to web surf at hopeless.com.
Isn't that true?
It is very true. And I think, it is, we often do that, right? I think that's how we deflect things from ourselves is by complaining, because if we're complaining, you know, I don't know. It's an odd thing that we do, but I just know for myself, I'm trying to change some of the words that I say and the way that I'm showing up for life because, yeah, complaining isn't getting anywhere.
No.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the steps then that we can take towards having more kindness and towards moving towards this, you know, utopia kind of government
Mm,
guidance?
mm. Oh, well, nice deep breaths, gratitude for existence. It's a gift to be alive, and a sense of cultivating neutrality, which can be also cultivated through meditation, witness, consciousness. I am witnessing the drama both within me and in the world, but I am not a player on the stage. I am a witness to it all. That takes discipline, courage, a strong drive. And then you step away from the world's in a bad place, so I'm in a bad place. My lover's in a great mood, so I'm smiling. You step away from letting the world define your mood.
Mhm.
I call it
Hmm.
being in the witness protection program.
Yes.
And
Well,
that's the greatest thing you can cultivate on this planet. What else are you going to do? Use the law of attraction to make $1 million and find your soulmate? How long is that going to entertain you? If you don't
Exactly.
take care of the mind, if you don't take care of your soul, then there's nothing in the world that can make you happy.
so how do you think that we move forward then? Because I think, like I said, I come from a sort of neutral spot. And so when I do vote, just to go there for a second, but when I do, I tend to go, who reflects most of what I'm saying? Because I do feel like I don't know. Like, what do you think? Like, do you think that we should still vote? And how do you think we should come to our decision if you do think that we should?
Well, we vote with our food choices. We vote with our moods. My goodness, we're always voting. We're always using our free will to splash our vibrations into the pond. Um, I would never pretend to tell people what to do or what not to do in terms of their preferences politically. Um, you know, what can you do? The question, I just keep bringing it back to you work on your consciousness. You become aware of your grievance and you replace it with peace and gratitude.
Mhm.
You remember that if you're really angry, you're probably also really scared and sad. And you do the dive, the emotional work of going beyond your first reaction. And for many people right now, there's a lot of grief underneath all the depression and anger and frustration is grief. And I think one of the best things we could do is to more consciously create space for grief to be a part of our life.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, showing kindness to other people as well is, you don't have to agree with their point of view. You don't have to agree with the way, they're grieving or anything else in their life, but just to show them kindness and just to say, I appreciate you for being who you are in your spot right now, I think goes a really long way to helping people out, right? We can help people through their grief and depression and things like that, the more that we show them the kindness and that we're coming from an open heart.
Mm,
Yeah. Mhm.
absolutely. And right now, some of my friends, a lot of people are so angry and upset that there's no discussion. It's like they're just so angry. And what I'm learning, as I go out and try to preach what you just shared, loving kindness and respecting people who you disagree with, there are some people who are so traumatized that they're not there. They don't even
No.
freaking value kindness. They're
Yeah.
ready, they're ready for war. And my lesson in that is to bow in respect towards their pain and not try to change, fix, or enlighten them with my perspective, but to just honor, wow, brother or sister, you seem to be really traumatized right now. Is there anything I can do? That kind of, kindness towards people who are not able to be kind right now for whatever reasons.
Yeah. So many people right now don't want to be wrong. They have an opinion and they stick with it. And those people you have to sit back and go, I'll listen to you because the only person that have a conversation is them. And um, and if you try to have a conversation with them, it's what they want to share anyways, and we're right of everything. And you find a lot of that day. I find if you don't say anything to people and just sit back and listen, they stop because they don't know what else because you decided that you're not in their frame of where they are, and nor do
Mhm,
you want to join them in that. But there's just so much of it aside. And I do
mhm,
believe that, staying within your own self, being your own person, can still bring out the best in them.
mm, mm.
Just smile. Just a smile sign is enough. I tried that again today. Just smiling at people when they walked in. We were in
Yeah.
and just watching the people that actually smile back. And
Oh,
you know, and it's amazing because out of on the most part, about, let's say out of 5, 3 was smile. I know that was pretty good today, actually. I really did, because oftentimes I'll go and hardly anybody smiles back. So, you know, and I think that that brings warmness to a person's heart.
the universal language. Vibration is so much more important than words.
Mhm. That is so
It
true.
is. It is so true.
It's true, and it's funny because I think sometimes when we can just be and not be in that conflict, it's like you're right, like that vibration of just being with someone, regardless of what they're feeling at that moment. I feel like there's a vibration that happens there that we just connect as humans and we just show our humanity to each other without putting words into it. So sometimes the silence is sometimes, really what we need more than some of these conversations that we have.
Totally. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I
Totally.
hesitate to respond because I want to honor the silence that you suggested we share. But then again, it's a podcast, so
Can't have too
we
much
do, we
For two, that's not.
how much silence can a listener take when tuning into a podcast? It might be a mistake for the podcast hosts and that special guest to just zip their lip and just be in consciousness. I mean, in theory, it's great. We're all doing that. But when you're listening to a podcast, it's not cool, Kat. It's just not cool. Let's fill up the space with words and with wisdom and Scott Grace.
Agreed. Agreed. And it's much better when you're watching it to see the silence because you're like, oh, okay, they're having that silence. But when you're listening, you're like, why are they, what did my earbuds click out?
Don't
Why did
touch
we
that
edit that out?
dial. Now, don't touch that dial. You are tuned into the right station. And even if there's a pause for meditation, it doesn't mean there ain't a whole lot of celebration. So just keep tuning in as we help you tune in within, because that's the station. That is the blast. That is the pod God cast. You've been cast in your own show. That's why we're here, so that you can know that you are here to glow, glow, glow. Let go and let God and let everything be exactly as it is. Because, hey, if you don't forgive, you don't live. You don't get to live unless you learn to forgive.
Yeah, that's true.
That is so true. And I love that because I heard someone speak about that one time, and it was like, even when you forgive somebody, you're really sort of lessening the ropes on yourself by that forgiveness. It's not forgetting because, if things happen, then we don't forget them per se, but by forgiving, you're just really kind of freeing yourself as well as this other person. And I think there's a lot to be said about that's just something that we should do more in life. I think we hold so tight onto these small, minor I don't know, things people do to us, it's like we're building up this arsenal of all these, wrongdoings. It's like, why? Like, let's just forgive them and keep moving through our life.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kim. Now, Kim or Barb gets to ask me another question, a curiosity question, maybe even a scary, risky, edgy question. Go ahead, make my day.
He's thinking.
I put them
We're
on the
thinking,
spot. I put
we're
them on
yeah,
the spot.
right.
You did. I'm thinking my brain is like going crazy, but I feel like like in the back there's that dee, 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 dee.
Like
Never.
it's a game show.
Yeah,
And
right?
pretty soon the buzzer is going to go off, and we're going to have to send you off with a consolation prize.
How do you release fear to
How
be?
do you release fear?
How do you release fear to be gone, where you get peace of your own self? How do you do that? Make a person complete that state. Because fear is so hard.
Fear is um, false evidence appearing real. Fear
Yeah.
is forgetting everything's all right. Fear is part of the human condition. So the first thing we do is we get honest, honesty, self-awareness. Okay, right now I'm in fear. Great. I'm in fear. Great. No problem. Second, compassion. There's a part of me, it's like 5 years old, 2 years old, that is scared shitless right now. Let me give that part of me a hug, an acknowledgement, love and kindness and tenderness and forgiveness. It's okay to be afraid. I love you. I love you. I love you. So, honesty, self kindness, and then walking in the direction of what you're afraid of. And you may want to take baby steps or whatever. You may want to get support. But ultimately, unless what you're afraid of is a plane crash or something that can kill you, if we're talking about psychological fear, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, you have to challenge it. You have to act as if you weren't afraid. That's called courage.
Mhm.
So, what do you
That's true.
think will happen to humanity if we continue down the road that we're on right now, that we seemingly are, so polar opposite against people in so many different subjects and different things.
Yeah.
And if you had a magic wand, how would you change it?
Good one.
Dun, da, da, da. Here's my magic wand. Those of you listening on the radio, I have a magic wand. Well, let's start with if we continue down this road, we're going to have two things: ascension and hell, and just about everything in between, because this earth is going to continue to be a place of polarity, and people are always going to have free will to choose love or fear. And those of us that are choosing
Hmm.
fear are experiencing more and more calamity. Those of us who are learning to choose love are experiencing more grace, more ease. And it doesn't matter who's president. It doesn't matter how crazy the United. It's just none of that matters because this evolution is just it's a done deal. It's ordained. It's beyond free will. We are ascending. And there are going to be many people who are going to choose to battle it out And then there's going to be many people who choose to love and be loved. And there will come a time where these worlds will be so, it's like oil and water. They're just going to separate. And there's going to be at least two dimensions on Earth happening at the same time. And at a certain point, they won't even be aware of each other.
Mhm.
Pretty cool.
So it is. So if, let's just say, you are not in agreement with who your president is or what you're thinking about these other people, or because I know right now we're in Canada, we're just coming up onto our federal election too. So we got a lot of things happening. So let's just say the person that you don't want in charge gets in charge. How do you deal with that? That you come from that spot of kindness? Do we just, I mean, because really once it's happened, there's nothing we can do about it. So, or is there? Can we now influence maybe moving forward with, like you were saying, our choices in, the things that we're spending our money on, the things that we're doing?
Yeah, we're always voting
Mhm.
with every dollar, with every breath. Uh, what would I want to say about that? Oh, yeah. I want to remind people that this is a bigger plan. And it's not that one person elected can actually affect the free will of masses of people. It just doesn't work like you are president of your United States. You and when leaders fail us, when leaders suck, it really is another opportunity, another learning experience to take your own
Yeah,
power back. Your personal power. That's all that matters. Who cares who's president? Stop being the victim. The government doesn't own
yeah,
you.
that's truth. Right.
Yeah, I like that. And I like about personal power because really, that's really the only person that we have total control over is ourselves.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
you know, how we show up in the world every single day, well, except for those days when we're having a bad day, but but how we show up in the world every single day should be who we are authentically. And when we stand, and I think we are growing more like that as humanity, myself, I really have a lot of hope for that. I think we are growing in our personal power and we are going to see some shifts. And I think that's a wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. We should be personal best all the time. Yeah, that's a good thing. It pushes it out there to the world. We're seeing every one of us. You know?
You know why Dickens wrote in A Tale of Two Cities, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times? That's that's freaking true all the time.
Yeah,
When my grandparents grew up, they were afraid that the end of the world was coming with World War One.
yeah,
When my parents were growing, they freaked out because it seemed like Hitler could take over the world. World War Two. When I was
yeah,
growing up, I heard about nuclear madness, and I was terrified. I had night terrors about the end of the world through nuclear war. Now, my daughter is growing up afraid of climate change. And, to me, it's always something.
yeah,
We're here because it's a curriculum, it's a demanding curriculum. We're learning lessons. And part of what we're learning about is how to deal with evil, which to me is just another word for fear.
hmm,
Yeah, absolutely.
hmm,
I would agree with that. And I think that's very sound advice for people, like being kind and knowing that, yeah, like there's always going to be negative, but if we let the positive, you know, be more, then we can come from this better spot than being
Yeah.
fearful all the time, right?
Yeah.
So this time has really ran quickly. You want to tell everybody where they can find you, Scott?
Yes. If anybody wants to find me, I'm at scottsongs.com, SCOTTSONGS.com. I've got books. I've got, like, well, let's say YouTube, Facebook, blah, blah, blah. But go to my website. It has everything. And if you act now, I'll throw in a free blender.
Perfect. And when's your new book coming out?
All right. So I have a book I wrote during Trump's presidency the first time, called How to Evolve During the Trump Experience, Whether Humanity Joins You or Not. And so what I'm doing now is I'm rewriting it to make it more relevant, and also because I've become a different person since his first term, and I much more value depolarization. I don't believe my opinions as strongly as I did during his first term. So it's going to be a different book. And I think it's going to be called Beyond Red and Blue: How to Stay Human in Divided Times or Polarized Times.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And do you have an
Yeah. Good.
estimated date when this is going to hit the world or
No, no.
just a work in progress?
Hopefully before he dies or gets impeached or
Something.
whatever. Like within a year. Within a year.
Nice. Lovely.
That's
Well,
good.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, it's been such a pleasure having you on and having this discussion. I think that our followers are really going to love to hear that and connect with that because I think at the end of every day, everybody does just want to like the people around them for the most part. And and be connected, right? And I think more and more people are trying to find that connection. So we really appreciate you saying the things that you said and, the rhymes that you gave to show people that, this
Mm,
connectedness is so, so, so important. So if there was
mhm.
a final thought that you had to leave with the followers, what would it be?
Um, Value connection above correction. The
Yeah.
thing that we find over and over again, especially when you get political, is people talking at each other, but nobody has the intention to listen, to learn, to, like, yeah, to become a better person because you're listening to somebody's heart, not just their head. So I can't teach anybody to get to this place, but I can tell you that it's a beautiful place and that I'm enjoying it. And that is when you value connection above correction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, that is a
Yeah.
wonderful thought. So thank you so much for joining us on the podcast again. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And, we hope that you'll come back and see us sometime and share more of your wisdom as you're, moving forward with your creations that you're doing. So thank you so much. And everyone else, we will see you the next time.
You bet.